This was a fun interview with Gene Hoglan. It really was. He even shows us some sores on his fingers from drumming. So
You know, he's very multi-talented with drummer creativity. He even uses sometimes abstract devices for percussion effects, although I don't know what it would be, you know. But he also does this like stop action photography with the drumsticks, which we talk about, which he does these crazy like um, lit up, colorful drumsticks that he makes even art with, as well as just being one of the most fantastic drummers to ever be in how many bands?
super nice guy too. I mean, where do you come up with questions for someone like Gene Hoglan? You have Death, you have a Dark Angel, you have Death Clock, you have Strapping Young Lad, just a journeyman and plus, Testament, just all the bands that he's been in. He is such an integral part of the whole Big Four
Fear
and beyond
Factory.
thing. Fear Factory, yeah. I mean, just wow. So check this interview out. Again, I'm not sure. I think we're a little dark. We got to turn the lights up
Also,
behind us.
oh, it was like 10 o'clock at
It was
night.
10 o'clock at night and I was drinking. So
But
yeah.
he was self-taught. He got his first drum kit at 13 and taught himself.
Don't worry.
Just
There's a few
amazing.
legendary Slayer stories that I get out of him too. So take it away. All right. Well, then in that case, you've probably been asked this one a million times, but I have to lead off with it.
I knew he was going to geek out with this.
Yeah, I have to. All right. So the legend of the recording of Chemical Warfare. Did you really lay on the floor and hold Lombardo's bass drum?
I sure did. Absolutely. Yeah, man. I was right down there, and
Talk about that because that song is just so iconic. I mean,
it sure is. I tell you what.
yeah.
Yeah, it was. Oh, thank you, sugar. Um, yeah, we. It was. I believe that was probably his first tune that he had tracked, maybe that day, and that was at a place called Track Records in Hollywood. And there was no like drum carpet or anything like
Right.
that down.
Right.
It was just on the concrete floor, and everybody was so new to recording back then anyway that Dave was about ready to track, and then he's like, "Hey, man, can somebody come in here and hold my kick drum because it just keeps walking?" And then all of a sudden, there was about like six heads that turned in my direction because they're like, "You're the drummer here, guy. So you head out there." So I'm down there, just kneeling on the floor, and I got my arm wrapped around mic stands and cymbal stands, and I'm just
Wow.
holding his drums in place. And that the tom,
Yeah.
that one was right over my head. And I remember Dave was using these Evans hydraulic heads, and they were purple. Therefore, they were clear. You could see through them. And that's to this day, that is my remembrance of that song. That's my initial go-to memory when I hear that song, is that tom right above my head, watching the stick just dropping right down on it.
That's so awesome.
And yeah, and I just remember going, after he kicked into the song, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, Dave, I sure hope you can nail this thing in one or two takes, because if we're here for like 3 or 4 hours, I'm going to die." But yeah, so that's eternally my memory of that song, is just floor tom. I mean, third rack
Oh,
tom
wow.
right there. So that's pretty fun.
Wow. No, that's great. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
because sometimes I don't trust Wikipedia. It's not always 100%. So
Yeah,
I just
fair
wanted to
enough.
ask. What do you got?
Well, you've been super busy lately. It's been festival season for you, for sure.
Darn
It
tootin',
looks like you have
absolutely.
two coming up.
Sure do. Yeah, we just finished a Death to All European run, and we played a whole bunch of the festivals out there, and that was great. What a fantastic run that was. And it was just really killer to play, pay a good homage to Chuck, and play with my
Yeah.
brothers, Steve DiGiorgio and Bobby Coble and Max Phelps as well. And so that was a true blast, and that's a good old workout every single night, playing death stuff. And when we weren't playing festivals, we were playing, our own shows, and we have a 2 hour and 15 minute set of, it's pretty, bam, 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 one tune
Yeah.
after another kind of thing. So we would play about 20 songs, and a lot of them were flying double bass songs. So I got my legs in shape on that tour.
Yeah.
Totally. So coming up next week, we have a couple of shows with Dark Angel out in Europe, doing a couple of festivals. The Moto Culture Festival, and that's going to be
Yeah.
killer. And then that's in France. And then the next day um, we have the Metal Me On Festival in Belgium. So we're really looking forward to that. We just had a Dark Angel jam today with the three members from California. And so I live in San Diego, and my wife Lara is joining us on stage. Jim Durkin can't make some of these shows, so we got my wife, the incredibly talented and beautiful Lara Christine, on guitar, and so we are the tightest we've ever been. We're just crushing. Eric Meyer, who lives in Huntington Beach, California, he drives down, and we did some jams. And so on Monday and Tuesday, the rest of the guys, Ron Reinhardt on vocals and Mike Gonzalez on bass, they swing on over to San Diego, and we get a couple of full band jams in. And then on Wednesday, we wing on over to Europe and jam with the Stones. So that's going to be pretty good.
That's great.
Do you have like any rituals, like pre-show, that you need to do or anything you need to listen to or drink or eat? That's a lot of energy.
Well, I tell you what, my most important pre-show ritual would be taking a nap. Seriously, man, that's what I've been doing that for God, 20 something years, 25 years at least, something like that. So I think that probably heads back to my days when I was drinking, because I'd have to sleep off the hangover from the night before just to get some energy, and I've never been a hard drug doer or anything like that. So it's not like I'm gonna do some cocaine to get up for the show. Yeah. That's not my action. It's like, I'll take a nap instead. So that's pretty much my pre-show ritual. I do a little bit of stretching, a little bit of warming up kind of thing. Yeah. And I warm up with big old heavy drumsticks, and I wear leg weights for a large portion of the show. And I'll pop them off before the songs start getting really blisteringly fast on the double kicks there. So yeah, those are the majority of my rituals.
So you don't need any additional workout. That's probably enough cardio for you.
I tell you what, boy, it is a cardio workout. Like,
I believe it.
Our rehearsal studio here in San Diego, it gets pretty steamy, and we jammed a couple of days ago with Eric, Lara, and myself did. And after the jam, I was wearing some track pants or something like that, and Lara was like, "Holy moly! I've never seen I know what those pants look like. Those pants look. I mean, you look like you just jumped out of a swimming pool." And I remember, and Eric was like, "Hey, let me check that out." So he reaches over and he brushes his hand across my pants. I was about to say, "Dude, don't do that."
Yeah.
Like you're about
Boundaries.
to slime. I don't mind him touching me, but I'm just like, I tried to dissuade him from sliming himself across my pants there, but yeah, man, it is quite the cardio workout. Absolutely.
Now, just going back to the death stuff, do you guys go do the full catalog? Do you go back to like Zombie Ritual? I mean, are you doing all the albums?
Oh, absolutely.
What kind of response? What song gets the biggest response, do you think?
They all do.
Yeah, they would from me. Yeah.
It is such, because we do run the gamut with the catalog. We don't believe in just concentrating on, say, the albums we did or a certain era of death or anything like that. We believe in doing the entire catalog. So you got a lot of the old hardcore death metal heads that are super duper into the earlier material. That's understandable. And then you got some of the younger guys that are kind of the guitar, real guitar wizard kind of, that's what their interest is. And they like the technical death metal kind of thing. They appreciate the latter era of death. But all we try to do is really entertain everybody and make everybody leave there with a big old smile on their face. And that is pretty cool. We have, we have guys in the front row, like some grizzled old grizzlers that have tears streaming down their face, and saying, "Thank you for doing
I'm one of them.
this."
I'm one of them.
That's cool.
When he wore the kitty cat shirt, I needed therapy after that. I
Yeah,
did.
right. That's pretty
I
cool.
needed some couch time for years after the kitty
Yeah.
cat shirt. Yeah.
Well, Chuck loved his animals, man. He always used to say, "Man, people suck, animals rule." That was one of his mantras there. That's you got
I've
to
gotten
agree
over
with
it, but I still have the dreams.
it.
With the Death to All, I saw was sold out in Europe. Are you guys going to bring that over to the U.S.?
We are sure hoping so. Absolutely. We'll see how 2023 transpires, but yeah, we're excited to uh, give it a shot. Absolutely.
It's great.
Do you guys have a particular bromance with any other bands that you play with in the festivals?
Well, let me see. I got to bump into my bros in Mastodon quite a bit over there, and those guys have been my pals for just about ever. So that was really cool. We shared a lot of the same days with them.
Yeah, Brand Daler's
And
he's no hack. Brand Daler.
right, what an incredible drummer he is, incredible vocalist. Absolutely, and he's a good pal. He's always really he's one of the more humorous gentlemen I know. Absolutely.
Oh, really?
Oh man, he's a fun guy. Totally, he doesn't take anything too seriously, and I've always appreciated that. So, and getting to see the guys from Opeth, that was great. And
Love them.
Yeah.
we actually met Michael Paulson from Volbeat. He stopped by our dressing room and just wanted to say, guys, I'm a big fan, and it's nice. It was myself and Stevie D right there, and
It's great.
so that was pretty cool. And he was explaining that, yeah, man, I remember this. I believe he wrote the liner notes to Spiritual Healing's re-release, and so yeah, it was nice to chat with that guy. But we're pals with everybody. I'm pals with everybody, so I always have a good time when I get to see my pals for a little bit. And a lot of times it's like you're running to the stage, they're running from the stage. So it's like,
Yeah.
dude, good to see you, man. How you doing? That kind of thing. But it's always really fun.
I'm go back again. So when Dark Angel covered the Immigrant Song,
Hmm.
that year, that couple of years, there was this strange phenomenon where a lot of the thrash bands were doing covers.
I remember
What
that.
was
I
the
remember that
impetus of
very well.
doing that?
Well, I remember when it kind of predating that influx, that flood of all thrash bands covering other songs.
Yeah.
On Darkness Descends, we covered War Pigs by Black Sabbath, and for the session of Darkness Descends, we tracked the song. But I remember I tracked it on my own. I remember that I think the day that I tracked that song, I think I played it to myself, just played it from memory kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then when the rest of the band went to go track the song, they're like, "Hey, Gene, do you realize that you left out the third verse?" And I'm like, "Oh no." And this was pre-Pro Tools. You can't just like cut and paste and
Oh, right.
fire something in, just cut the second verse and pop it in. It's only a verse and a big pile of stuff. You had to re-record everything, and the drums were already done by the time, that was pretty much our final song to track. We got the rest of the original material done, and then I believe it was probably Eric who went to go track the guitars for that one, and he's like, "Hey man, there's no third verse." So we're like, shoot, we cannot put this on, Darkness Descends, which Black Sabbath, even then, 1986. Remember, in 1986, Black Sabbath was getting no love from anybody.
It's hard to believe now, but I do remember that. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, you're of that era, man. You remember when, Tony Iommi had yet to release that, Black Sabbath featuring Tony Iommi, Seventh Star record
With Glenn
Their
Hughes.
right?
Yeah.
And the album that most earliest preceded that era was the Born Again record, and you know, a lot of people say, man, that wasn't a very Black Sabbathy record either. You know, Ian Gillan on vocals.
Yeah.
I love all Sabbath
I
material.
love that album. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. I have some great songs on it.
And they had
And
Stonehenge. They had fucking
Yeah.
Stonehenge
yeah, right.
on the stage.
That's pretty fun. That is true. So yeah, man, that's we tracked. You know, we got our little cover in there beforehand, but the rest of the world did not know it. So
Yeah.
by the reason we did Immigrant Song was, I remember when Ron Reinhardt came to his first Dark Angel rehearsal. Um, you know, we had lost the previous vocalist, and we were going through quite a number of vocalists at the time. You know, we weren't quite finding the guy yet. We had a lot of real talented guys, a lot of guys that were really into being a part of Dark Angel, but
Yeah.
there was just something kind of missing about each one of these guys we were trying out. And when Ron came down, you know, Ron, I had seen Ron in his prior band in Los Angeles. I saw him play the Whiskey. And when it was either Eric or Jim Durkin, it might have been Jim, saying, I got a call from a guy named Ron. He was in this band. It was a band called Messiahs, like Messiah with an S on the end, Messiahs.
Okay.
And I was like, I saw that guy I saw that guy sing. That guy's great. And he's covered in tattoos, man. Like, nobody looks like this guy. Like, and he had a great voice, killer stage presence. So yeah, man, I'm excited for this. And we had him come down to, hey man, we're rehearsing anyway. Come on down, check out the band, meet the guys, see what you think, and you know, we'll carry forward if you're into it. And he dug the jam, and he dug the whole Dark Angel thing. And we're like, hey man, you want to maybe how about we try a cover song or something?
Yeah.
You know, just try something just to try you out and see what we do. And we had been fooling around with the Immigrant Song, just having fun playing it, nothing serious. And we mentioned, you know, the Immigrant Song by Zeppelin. He's like, yeah, man, let's do it. So that was the very first song that we ever played with Ron Reinhardt. And so
Wow.
it was just kind of a natural evolution that's like, hey man, let's fire that one on. Just it wasn't because, oh, everybody and their mom is doing cover songs now. It was just like, here's a little homage to our very first hang together, you know.
That's
So
awesome.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, the first time I heard that, I was in the car with my buddy, and we were listening to that album for the first time. And I looked at him and said, "What just happened?"
No, that's fun. Boy, we butchered the hell out of it to a lot of Zeppelin fans, man. They
No,
were just,
I think it's great. It just I really didn't know what to think of it, you know. So, but
we put
no, that's great.
we put the Dark Angel caffeinated approach to it, you know, and so hey man, we made it ours. Definitely, man. We did not try to follow
Absolutely.
the original arrangement all that much, but I just love Ron's voice, man. I mean,
Mhm.
when we kicked into that song at that very first rehearsal, I was like, oh my God, this is our guy. You know, we can do so much with the vocals now. And then we just had him bark for the entire Leave Scars record.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so that was the one thing where it's like, the man can't sing, you know, he's got a range to him,
Oh,
but
yeah.
that was the only song that kind of showed a little bit of what he could do. So there you go.
You lit a fire under Testament at a time when it seemed like everybody related to the Big Four and beyond was just faltering. And that album is still so fucking incredible. Like, what led them to you and you to them? I mean, for that record,
Was that the what's that one? The Byron album?
Demonic
Oh, Demonic. Holy moly. Okay,
Demonic.
I was thinking of the one
with the
later.
death
Like
with the death grunts from Chuck. Yeah.
That's right. Well, I had gotten a call from Chuck in, you know, I remember going to see Testament, and they had played one of the smaller LA clubs, and this was in 1996. Chris Contos was on drums for them, and I believe James was still playing guitar for him. So this was in about springtime of 1996. A lot of the evolution of music was happening at the time, you know, like, you know, Korn was doing their thing, and that
It
a
was getting
lot of
dark
the
for a lot of the traditional metal
indeed,
bands were
absolutely.
they were suffering. Yeah. If you wanted to get an autograph from fucking Bruce Dickinson, that was when you did it because
Yeah, indeed.
yeah, they were playing clubs,
Yeah, they were. I remember seeing Maiden in '96
Oh yeah.
playing a small place in LA, a
Just
place called
seems
the
so
Palace.
wrong.
Absolutely.
I
And
love your bus, by the way. Run to the wheels.
oh, that's pretty fun. Yeah, that just a bus that we rented. I was just a bus over there, over in Europe. But we had, yeah, Chuck I remember at that show, Chuck's like, "Hey, man, I just got a copy of the new Pantera. I just got an advance of what was to become the Great Southern Trendkill." I remember we sat in the back of Chuck's bus and checked that one out, and he didn't really mention anything like Chris is temporary or anything, Chris Contos.
Right.
Um, but I got a call from him not that long afterwards saying, "Hey, you know what? Eric and I were looking to kind of maybe branch out a little bit away from Testament. We're not sure if we're going to continue Testament, but how would you feel about coming up and writing some material with us and seeing where that can go?" And I was like, "Dang, man, I have no problem working with Chuck Billy. The man's got
Yeah,
the
yeah.
big old voice. Like
Oh yeah.
I mentioned many times, man. When I saw him, we did some shows with him back in like 1990 or something, and when he's like, preach, I'm just like, holy moly, right there. I want to work with that man, totally.
Oh yeah.
And so when when I went up to the Bay Area and started rehearsing with him, Chuck was feeling his way around like his vocal style, like the band was not necessarily going to be Testament. I mean, he had told me the working name of the band that they were looking to use, and I'm like, that song title. It was one of their prior album song titles. Song was a kick-ass song and had quite a bit of death metal vocals in it. But they were considering calling the band this, the title off one of the earlier songs. And so I believe that might have been how it started evolving. That we rehearsed for a number of months, and I don't even know if Chuck remembers any of this. That it started kind of evolving back into where I believe they were getting explained to by record labels that, hey man, guys, just continue with Testament. Just ride out the wave, ride
Yeah.
out the storm with the tried and true name that you guys have established for yourselves. So, don't pack all that in to create a new project here. And it was kind of like, well, a whole lot of this material has been written already. And let me tell you, man, when Chuck is singing death metal, I've mentioned this before, man, just the ground
Oh
rumble
yeah.
underneath Chuck. It was pretty darn incredible just hearing his voice, and that was really exciting. So I'm like, well, I just came from, pretty landmark death metal band. Looks like I'm going to be involved in another pretty darn landmark death metal band. I mean, Chuck was brand new to death metal vocals, but let me tell you, he sang death metal unlike anybody else.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there was some conviction and some ground movement when he
Oh
was
yeah.
singing. So I'm like, hell, man, just write, keep writing heavy stuff, And I remember that their other rhythm guitarist at the time was Derek Ramirez, who is Eric Peterson's cousin. And I believe Derek was the original guitarist for Legacy. I believe Alex Skolnick might have replaced Derek.
Okay.
So Derek had come back into the fold, and Derek and I became instant pals, man, totally. And I remember Derek was pushing Chuck, like, dude, go heavier, man. Sing heavy, man. Go death metal, And
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Derek likes to give me half of the credit or blame for that. Remember that, Gene? You and me were the one pushing Chuck. And I'm like, hey man, I'll take the credit or the blame, whichever. So there you go. But I thought Demonic was a killer record. I
It
thought it
is.
was killer, and I do think maybe it was a little surprising for Testament fans,
Yeah.
but hey man, I've said it many times. You can never go wrong if you err on the side of heavier,
Right.
Yeah.
kick ass.
That's an
Go
interesting
heavier.
point, and I wanted to point this out to you. So, of the kind of Big Four and beyond family, as thrash started to kind of disintegrate and people started to get into other projects, there were only two men that went into, like you just said, heavier. Danny Liker from Nuclear Assault went to Brutal
Mhm.
Truth, and you did fucking Death and the stuff with everybody else did like prog rock or, um,
Sure.
you know what I mean? And I just, what made
Yeah.
you,
What made you
what
say?
made you go heavier? I mean,
Well, that's pretty kick ass, man. I never
it
thought
is,
about
isn't it?
it. I'm like, well, I am like growing up, and when thrash metal started coming around, and I am OG thrash metal.
Yeah.
I am from the absolute ground floor, the initial big bang of thrash. I'm a part of that scene, so I'm like, well, I'm okay with evolving into something heavier. When I got the call from Chuck, like, hey man, would you be interested in checking out some of the material? I've mentioned this before, that I kind of thought that it was going, after Death was coming off the just groundbreaking Human album.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, man, like Chuck Schuldiner, myself, boy, we're just gonna be this
Yeah.
death metal apocalypse. This is gonna be great. I'll put my savagery to the whole thing, and it's gonna be great. And Chuck was actually going in a rather more
Yeah.
melodic kind
Kitty
of,
cats. I know. Yeah.
and Chuck was like, I gotta write what, yeah, kitty cats, absolutely. Um,
Sorry,
I
can't help
gotta,
it.
I, I gotta write, I gotta write what I feel. I've done all that, all the heavy stuff.
Oh
I've
yeah.
done that. So I just got to follow my vision, my dream. And I'm like, sounds good to me, Chuck. I'm all about following vision. And if the rest of the world is going this way and you want to go this way,
Yeah.
I'm all for that. I love
Great.
doing that as well. So, those two like minds there. And so, going from the mighty thrash era that completely gave birth to death metal. I mean, that's
Yeah.
apparent. That's very obvious. to then step up to the next layer of heaviness. Kick ass, man. I'm all about that. I'm fine with going heavier all the time. I I I I don't have a physique or a face for MTV top radio, top 40 hit kind of
Uh,
hard
you're not
rock,
willing to go head to head with David Coverdale.
that kind of thing. It's like, man, I'm cool with keeping it just grisly
Brutal.
and grinding and brutal. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't
So
know. I totally think that you could. I saw that picture of you with Lars. You make him look like a tiny guy. How
Yeah.
tall are you?
well, I am 6'4", and
Okay.
Lars is a rather diminutive man, but yeah, man, I remember, God, all of Testament, with the exception of one member, are all over 6 feet tall. And
Really?
I remember, yeah, man. You know, Stevie D, Steve DiGiorgio says he's 6'4". I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, you're 6'5". I'm like, just admit you're 6'5". You're not 6'4". You're taller than me. He's like, no, I'm 6'4", man. And Chuck is 6'3", and Alex is about 6 foot or 6'1". And I remember Ice-T, like we met Ice-T and all that, and he already knew Chuck and a couple of the other guys, but he's come up to me talking to me. He's like, damn, man, you have to be like a giant to be in Testament? I was like, apparently, man. So,
It's like when I saw Merciful Fate, Charlie D'Angelo is like 9 feet tall, and King Diamond is like this tiny guy. That was a
right.
strange.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, yeah. So, I wanted to ask you also the well, why don't you go ahead?
Oh,
You go ahead.
well, was interested. Death Clock is kind of having a revival. How was Death Clock live? How does that
What's
do?
that like?
Oh my God, it is the most mind-blowing experience you can imagine. Absolutely, man. It is such a sensory overload,
Oh yeah.
like because we as the Death Clock pit orchestra, we keep ourselves kind of we try to make the band as anonymous as possible. And we got this big old giant screen behind us, and everybody can see the latest show on YouTube, and shows throughout history on YouTube, some of the concerts. And we have this big old giant screen behind us, and it's everything is set to a click track. All the music and edits and animation is formatted to cuts on the click track. So it's there's a lot of there's a lot of responsibility on my shoulders, definitely, because pretty much they hit the start button on the program on the laptop, and the show just runs. It doesn't stop. We don't like take little break. We take breaks in the song in between the songs. However, on the video, there's like a comedic little 2-minute break here, and it's full onslaughting visual psychosis mixed with a lot of comedy as well.
Yeah.
So that is really fun, and it's an amazing show. I've had like we have done we've done 3 to 4 one-offs over the years since our last like proper tour, and but during always when I'm on the road and I'm talking with some of the local guys, local fans, hanging out after the show. A lot of guys have told me, they're like, I've lived in this town here. I've been to every show, and these guys are older than me, kind of thing. I've been
Yeah.
to every show, from all the little club shows to all the big old stadium concerts and stuff. This was the best concert I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, badass. And
Yeah.
I heard that many times. So I'm like, hell yeah, man.
Yeah, I
I
believe it. I mean, yeah, when you said orchestral, watching those videos, that was the first thing I thought of. Is I was like, wow, it's like a death metal orchestra, is what it is.
absolutely, and
Unbelievable.
I kind of feel bad for, like, when you're meeting a mom and dad and their young one is with them, their 9-year-old, 12-year-old, and they're saying, this is our son's first concert. I'm like, oh my God, it's just downhill from here now, kid. Go see whoever you want to see. It's not going to be Death Clock. So I'm
Oh
sorry
man,
to start you up here, because it's only downhill from here on out.
that's
So
important. Yeah, yeah. My first concert was Maiden Power Slave, and
there
that
you
was
go,
pretty fucking
1984,
hard to follow. But I
right?
do think that you're right. I think the Death Clock eclipses that, but it's not a good starting point.
It's
Yeah,
like
Yeah, man.
Trans-Siberian Orchestra for
your first concert. Yeah, like you think they're all going to be like that.
Exactly. Like, hey, Dad, how come we're at the, you know, what can AC/DC do that Death Clock hasn't done? Like, come on, what's going to happen? Oh, big exploding
Yeah,
cannons. Ooh, where's my big video screen with,
yeah. I think my second concert was like Kansas or something. I was like, where's the giant
right?
monster that they pull the brains out of? What the
Yeah,
hell?
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you wanted to ask about Strapping Young Lad.
Yeah, I mean, another iconic album you're on, Cities, or City. There's a lot of programming on that album. Like, talk about what that was like, where you were drumming and programming, and what was it like making that record?
Programming. I'm trying to think of the programming that actually went on the record. I don't know if there was actually any. That's all live drums. That's me
Really?
playing on that thing. Yeah, man. That's
'Cause, I
Hoglan
mean, I
playing.
think the liner notes say something about programming of some kind,
There
but
there could have been some stuff that kind of laid down in the background, kind of thing, but
okay.
that is me. I think there might have been a little bit of like boom, 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 boom on some
Yeah,
toms Devin might have laid down, afterwards. But
yeah.
those drums are 100% Hoglan, man. Let me tell you,
Awesome.
Did you
it was
ever
great.
injure yourself on stage while playing because everything's going so fast?
Well, I tell you, man, there's been many a times when I have been injured on stage, but not because of what's happening on stage. Like There's been times when I've thrown out my back and I can barely walk, but it happens. But I'm sitting there jamming along, so
Yeah.
you bleed a lot on stage. Sometimes you
Bleed?
bust up your, yeah, man. You'll get a like a big old. I have calluses.
Yeah,
I don't know if you see that. You see a big old that thing hanging on the side of my. Oh yeah, you can even see some old blood
Oh
blister
yeah.
action
Oh yeah.
on
Wow.
that action there. Yeah, man, that happens. But it's all for metal. Bleed for metal. We're all for it.
What do you think of that movie Whiplash that came out a few years ago about the jazz drummers? You see that?
Well, I saw it one time. I think I saw it on a plane.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't anything that made me recall it afterwards. Like, I
Okay.
never thought I'd get, like, what did you think when you saw Whiplash? I never thought I'd hear that question. So I wasn't like thinking it in or anything. So there you go.
Okay, there you go.
What's going on with the? They said I was online and it was saying you did this like long exposure photography with like colorful drumsticks. Are those prints available for
Oh,
purchase?
absolutely.
Or
Yeah, man. It's at
yeah?
genehoglanart.com.
All
Yeah,
right.
they're all available. They look amazing. It is long exposure, um, long exposure with glowing, colorful sticks, and they just have you jam. That's part of it's from a company called Scene 4, and they have you jam and just do your thing, and they just capture the whole thing, and it comes out really, really neat. And Scene 4 is a company that is run by a gentleman by the name of Corey Danziger, and found out deep into the project that Corey Danziger played Tom Hanks's son in that movie The Burbs,
Oh
which is
yeah,
one,
yeah.
one of my wife Laura's favorite movies. One of her family's favorite movies. So when I told her that, she's like, "Holy
The
moly,
bird?
The
Burbs.
Burbs."
Oh, the Burbs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I thought you
Not
said
not the Hitchcock film, The
Yeah,
Burbs.
not the
totally
Hitchcock.
different movie.
The Burbs. So anyway, that was pretty, fun little bit of trivia to find that out.
Great.
All right, so we have a segment on our show called Getting to Know You Random Questions with Stace, which is me. So I want you to pick 5 numbers between 1 and 57. So it's kind of like lotto. So go.
7, 13, 27, 36, 43, and 57.
That's 5 already.
Oh,
Do it, do it.
All right. So question number 7. What is your go-to dance move?
the one I do, it's about that. That's about the best you can get out of me, man. My wife Laura's an incredible dancer. When she like grabs me in the living room, like, "Hey man, let's dance." That's pretty much my little
That's your
action
dance
there.
move.
That's about all I can pull off there, man.
Kind of like the robot. All right. Question number 13, which you picked. What is the worst job you ever had?
Playing for a band in the 2000s that I had no heart and no soul into playing. I've outside of drumming for a living, I've had one job ever, and that was back in the 80s. But I would say playing for a certain band, that was a job, and that was a job that I did not appreciate nor felt any appreciation from that job.
Oh
So
yeah.
so there you go. So, yeah, man, I was happy when that quick little it just kind of zoomed by real fast.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 27. Do you consider yourself a do the dishes person or let them soak person?
I am not going to kid you one iota. My nickname to my wife Laura is Dishes. She calls me Dishes.
Because you're
And
obsessed with doing them?
I am in no way obsessed with doing them, but I do a lot of dishes.
Okay.
Like, my wife's a touring musician too, but when I'm on the road, and when I come back, she's like, finally the dishes can get done. Come on, man. That kind of thing. So yeah, man.
Question number 36. If you could eradicate a TV show or movie from existing, what would you pick?
I would suggest every single bit of reality television that is scripted and with all the vapid people that you have absolutely no feeling for,
Right.
and you can't understand how these folks have become reality stars, kind of thing. Tell you
Yeah.
what, it's getting kind of dark here. I could tell it's getting dark. Let me flip on the light. I'm just out my back.
Sure.
Hang on one second.
Okay. I'm just picturing people are starving, and then there's some guy counting on a Snickers bar behind a camera going, "You look great. You look great." Okay, that's better. Yeah.
The sun looked nice there for a little bit. Just hanging out there. Got a little nice.
Yeah, the
little
palm trees look great. Yeah.
Yeah, look at. I mean, that's what I see outside of my place there.
Oh, look at that. Yeah.
That's
We're
really
in
nice.
Baltimore, not so many palm trees.
Definitely not. No.
That is where my wife Laura was born, Baltimore.
Really?
Oh,
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Baltimore runs through it, we found.
Yes.
Here you go.
All right, so your last question is number 43. How are you similar to your parents?
Well, first of all, boy, I tell you what, nobody was like my dad, Jerry Hoglan. That man was a singular character unto himself, man. And the one thing I've tried, like all of my friends, they might like me. They love my dad. It's like it would be like, the word would be like, hey man, Jerry's come down to the gig tonight. People be like, Hoagland, get out of the way, man. Where's your dad? That kind of thing. And my dad was a tiny pink man. He was a tiny little man. I'm 6'4". My dad was 5'7",
Oh,
and
wow.
just pink. I'm a pretty brown dude, but my dad was just tiny little pink man. But he was the coolest dude ever. Always had stories. All my friends were just like, man, we love your dad. We tolerate you, so you bring your dad around, kind of thing. So that was pretty cool, man. I love my dad, and he and my wife Laura were best pals, man. And my dad was constantly like, say, when are you gonna drop that loser and get
Oh, my
with a real
God.
dude here? Like, come
So
on, man,
funny.
drop that kid, man. So that's pretty cool.
Great. I think that's about all we have. Do you have some things that you're working on now that you'd like to talk about?
Well, let me see. I'm currently myself and Jim Durkin. We're writing the new Dark Angel record, so we're trying to get that
Yes!
rolling, and that's coming out pretty darn badass so far, man. Let me tell you. And we have a new web store available at Reversed Records for all my stuff, for all things, Gene related, and Dark Angel and Death to All and all that.
pack.
Yeah, man, right. Super cool there. And one thing that I've been involved in over the past over a decade now, Jesus, is trying to get healthy, trying to be healthy, and being involved with superfood companies and things like that. And there's a fantastic superfood company called High on Life Superfoods that is pretty darn cool. People might want to check that out if you're into trying to attain a little, healthier lifestyle. And I freely admit, man, I am in training. I'm 54 right now. I'm 54 years old, and I intend to be crushing it in deep into my 70s, like not in some kind of like, oh, that's adorable, he still plays some drum kind of thing. No, I mean, I'm talking like just wielding the savage double bass, the blast beats, all that sort of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So and I consider myself to be in training for that. I'm not effing around. Like I've lost 180 pounds, about 180 pounds. That's right. And I got up to like 410 pounds, man. I was a very, very large human. I'm a large, imposing human, even at this size, but there you go. So I figure I could get away with my, I still got a ways to go, but I could get away with my carriage the way it is, my size or whatever.
Yeah.
But by the time I'm in my 70s, I figure I'll be cut, ripped, just crushing everything,
That's
So
great.
utilizing superfoods, eating healthy, not a bad way to go. And all of my friends are kind of doing the same thing as well. Everybody knows that, hey, man, partying, that was great back in the 20s and all that kind of stuff. But now we're serious about living. So we all want to be doing this for year upon year upon year. So what better way to take it on than start getting healthy now, man? So there you go.
Gene, thanks so much. This was great.
Right on, Mark. Right on, Stace. It was great chatting with you guys, man. And
Can't
best of
wait
luck
to
with it.
see you guys live and in person.
Absolutely.
This is the Snaggletooth Extreme Metal Podcast.